The next matchup we're going to dive across to is Indianapolis at Tennessee. Are we expecting this to be interesting? Are we expecting this to be firing, or is this just going to be a case of Tennessee throttles Indianapolis and kind of puts them into the bind and it becomes a low-scoring affair?
So I think this is a game which is going to attract ownership because, for a start, Zach Moss is far too cheap this week. You know, he's down at 4,600 on DraftKings, which just makes him a free square. Like, I've seen ownership projections for him to be well over 50% in large field tournaments, as high as 80% in small field, which is sub 1,000 players. And I think it's kind of deserved to an extent because we saw him at the start of the year averaging 20.7 points per game over his first 5 games. The last time that Zach Moss played the Titans in, I think it was like week 5, he had 195 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the third most by any running back this season in an individual game. And so we started this year thinking, okay, the Titans are good against the run. But since that game against Zach Moss, they've kind of fallen down the ratings week after week, and they rank 16th against they rank second best in DVOA because they have all the kind of efficiency metrics. They keep players to low yards per carry, and they keep players to not breaking massive runs frequently. But since week 10, both Rashad White and Chuba Hubbard have scored at least 17 points versus the Titans. So I kind of feel like DVOA is treating the Titans a little bit more, fluffing them up a bit more than we need to worry about for fantasy. In terms of the passing game, Michael Pittman's going to attract ownership again, and he's an absolute smash start. Michael Pittman has had the 7th most wide receiver targets at 111. He's averaging 10.1 per game and scoring no fewer than 14.4 points in his last 6 games. And that's something which the Titans just can't defend. They rank 30th in DVOA against the pass. They've allowed the 6th most fantasy points to the position. But I don't think I'll get to a point where I want to be stacking Gardner Minshew with him because you look at what he's doing and he's just not fantasy viable. The days of him being fun to fan. Yeah, he's not good. We've been on this train for a while. He's averaged 11.2 points over his last 4 games. Josh Downs, 13 targets in week 12, but he only caught 5 of them. So you can take your dart throws at Josh Downs. I don't mind that at all. And then on the Titans side of this, Will Levis, I mean, it looked so promising in that week 8 debut. Since then, he's had 1 double-digit game, and that was like 10 points or so. It wasn't like a good enough fantasy day where you'd even want him being your QB2 in Superflex. Chigozie Okonkwo did get going last week. We talked about it being an okay matchup for him, but he still only had 4 catches for 45 yards. So you're still talking less than 10 points, which isn't what we're after. And DeAndre Hopkins, like, that game where in week 8 where Will Levis was just throwing the ball downfield to him and it was just magic. He's only had 5 targets in each of the last 2 games. Things aren't going well at all for the passing game. But I think you can lean into the running game on the Titans side of this. Derrick Henry last week had his 2nd highest opportunity share of the season at like 76%. And that isn't anything to really be like, okay, that was incredible, because it was against Carolina, which is like one of the most easy matchups that you could find as a running back. But the Colts aren't much better. They've allowed the 7th most fantasy points to running backs. They rank 24th in run defense DVOA. So as long as the Titans can kind of stay within an okay neutral game script, I think we could be in for another Derrick Henry big week. And there aren't going to be many left of these, and I want to play Derrick Henry when I can.
I think I agree. It's good fun, Derrick Henry. There's few players that are as fun when they're scoring fantasy points to watch as Derrick Henry. But on the Zach Moss point, we had a fantastic conversation in the Discord. There's been chats about it all week about, is it kind of getting too smart trying to avoid him? Is it the right play to just plug him in? Is there a world where, yes, he's ridiculously cheap. Yes, he's got a potentially huge workload and we've seen him do it again. Is there a world where you're getting away from him, or is it just a case of you're just eating the chalk and you've just kind of got to stick him in that lineup?
Yeah, I think in cash games, if you're playing double ups, multipliers, there's no need to overthink it. You just go, okay, he's 4,600. He's probably, if you look at like the $25 double up single entries on Sunday, I'd be surprised if he's less than 80% rostered in those. In tournaments, I think you need to be conscious of what it means for the rest of your lineup. We'll talk about it in the DFS clinic video this week. That's a YouTube members only video that we do each week where we talk about ways to leverage plays against others, ways to, what GPP stacks we should be building around, what cash game core we should build around. And I think there's ways that you can get different. I think, you just need to be conscious going, okay, if I'm plugging in a 50%, 60% rostered player, what does that mean for how I build the lineup around that?